What's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, man, and we are live. Myself, Laurie, we are here to discuss last weekend's fights, man. A lot to get through, and I'm really looking forward to this show. But before we get started, of course, let me just bring in our guy, man. He came on the stream last week. He was bold with his prediction. He said it how it was, and it was literally exactly what happened. So it's only right we get him in the building here. Shane right here. Big him up, man. Shane, what's going on, bro?
Thanks for having me back on. Obviously, this is like home away from home. I love coming on this podcast. So, respect to Daryl, respect to Laurie, man.
Big up, man. Don't forget, you guys can catch Shane on Jeff TV's channel. Them man do a great podcast over there. And big up Jeff, BFV, Shane, all you guys, man. Harvey's in the building. He said here, evening to you both. Hope you're well. Evening to you as well, Harvey. Big him up, man.
What I was going to say is what you're seeing, people, you're not really seeing. This is the art of deception here. You think you got two people on with you, Daryl, but really you haven't. It's the art
I could tell. Even Francisco's jumping in, man. He's put her word up, bros. Respect the art of war. I think man are going to be on some smoke today, man. I can see it.
Hey, I swear to God, yeah. Someone needs to get a top mate called Art of War. Someone needs a top with Art of War. I swear to God, that is so funny.
That man just created a legend and he didn't even know it.
Ash, I'll see you, bro. He's put here, Art of War is one of the most memorable moments of all time.
Fact.
What if I didn't mean it?
Listen, guys, don't forget, man, all you guys got to do, hit the like button on the way in, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Laurie, your nemesis is in the building. Punch Smollett is here. He's put here Haney tops. He said Haney's at the top of the pound for pound most boring boxers. Wow. That is, I saw a lot of people say it was boring last week.
Pound for pound. Punch Smollett is pound for pound probably one of the most hating guys of all time. You know what I mean? Or the top 10.
I mean, you know who else is very boring? And I had to say this the other day to a lot of people who were saying Devin Haney's boring. Another person who's very boring is Bivol. He still beat Canelo, so it doesn't matter. You can be boring and be a great fighter.
No, but the thing is, right, if you find Haney and Bivol boring, then maybe you're in the wrong sport. Maybe you should like to watch two semi-naked men in bare feet grappling in a cage. Maybe that's more your type of thing. But if you like the sweet science and you like boxing, man, then why wouldn't you like Bivol or Haney? You know what I mean? This sport is called hit and not get hit. Unless you want to end up like that poor African guy that we've all seen the video of.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Maybe Punch Smollett likes guys like that, innit? Who just take
what happened? I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow, there's a video going around, man, with an African guy. It's coming towards the end of the fight, and he's clearly concussed because at one stage he goes over to the ring apron and just starts hitting the ring apron, thinking that he's hitting an opponent. So he was clearly concussed. It was quite sad to watch, actually. So maybe that's the type of fighter that Punch Smollett admires, those guys, you know what I mean, that just take bare punishment throughout their careers and, you know what I mean, can't think straight. But
hit and not get hit, that's the same.
Anyway,
hey, Shane, let me get the video. I'll show you here. I've got the video up. I'll show you. 1 second. I'm sure I'll be allowed to show this. So yeah,
it should be, especially if it's on socials.
Okay, share my screen quickly. Big up IB, I'll see you. Jerry, thank you for joining. Michael Maxwell, Punch Smollett, all you guys, man, great to have you here as always. I'm just gonna show Shane that video because it was scary, man. It was actually scary. Here, let me know you can see it, right?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So I'm sure everyone else in the comments would have seen this already. But yeah, and the boxer was winning as well. Look. So it's the one in the white trunks. Keep your eye on the one in the white trunks. The referee tells us fight. Look, he goes after the referee. Then he moves over. Look, and look. Referee just had to wave it off. scary, man.
I have a theory about this after. I'm gonna message you guys though. This was in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a theory about this. I'm not even gonna lie. I have a theory about this. I'll message you guys after. I have a theory though.
You remember there was a fight some years ago when Simon Brown got knocked out. I think he fought a guy called someone Pettigrew, I think it was. And Simon Brown got knocked out, and he was actually on the floor throwing punches up in the air. He was prostrate on his back, and he was doing that, thinking he was still fighting an opponent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, these things are serious, bro. You know what I mean?
Got a couple of questions. I've got one for Shane, and then I've got one for you, Laurie. We'll start off with this one here for Shane. Big up Harvey. He said here, Shane, I wanted to ask you something. On your Insta story, you said people call Haney boring, so Bivol and Usyk must be boring. I just wanted to hear you explain that a bit more. Haney and Usyk are so different.
The reason why I say that is because if you look at what Haney does, and the reason why I spoke about Bivol and Usyk is because those dudes aren't known for getting knockouts. You know, Usyk, I mean, he's fought many fights at heavyweight now, hasn't got knockouts. Bivol, I think his last 7 fights have gone the distance. And the same thing with Haney. Haney's not getting the same knockouts as well. And I feel like when you look at Haney and Bivol and Usyk, especially Bivol and Haney, they're safety first fighters, which means as Laurie has said earlier, it's about they think about not getting hit. They will get their work off and they're not going to get hit. They're going to make sure they keep themselves safe. And that's what I'm talking about. You know, those dudes, if they don't have to go into action and go into these impact Toro Gatti type fights, then they're not going to. You know, they're just going to keep it clean and keep it safe. That's what I meant.
Okay.
You know, and it is seen as boring to some fighters, you know, who wants to see the Rocky style fight. But these dudes ain't like that.
Well, hopefully that's answered your question, Harvey. I've got a question here for you, Laurie. Big up IB.
To me, it's not boring at all. Listen, the guy was put on a masterclass of boxing, and he was just using the jab primarily. It's up to George Kambosos to close the distance and let his hands go. He couldn't do it. So that suggests to me that there must have been a lot more pop on those punches than people are giving him credit for, because it's not as if Kambosos was able to walk through them, was it?
No, it's not even that. It's not even that.
The story.
It's not even that, Laurie. Kambosos is just not very good as a fighter.
No, but what I'm saying, if he was that feather-fisted and that boring, surely Kambosos should be able to just walk through that and land punches at will then. But he wasn't able to do that. And if you look at his face after the fight, he looked beat up. Cuts and bruises all over his face. So at the end of the day, Kambosos, you knew what tactics Devin was going to employ. It was no secret what he was going to do, but you couldn't stop him from doing it. And he knew what Kambosos was going to do, and he was very easy in doing what he did. So the onus is on Kambosos. Make it an exciting fight then. Drag him into the war that you said you were going to do.
Laurie, got a question for you here. IB has said here, big up, Laurie, it's clear that Kambosos' antics were to build himself up and get Haney to engage. Clear respect from him at the end as well. I think I like him again now. He was a gentleman in defeat. What's your thoughts?
No, I don't agree with that. He wasn't a gentleman in defeat. He was a gentleman in little parts that suited him, because then he started saying, oh, I thought I outlanded him. Devin was running. He did a lot of holding.
Yeah, but is that just a bit of pride after the fight? You know what I mean? Is that after the fight? People say, you know, boxers are the biggest, you know, they don't know till they go back and see the tape. You don't think
but
that?
I don't agree that he showed enough respect at the end. He did it in little spots when it suited him to do that, when the cameras were on him. And then at other times, he was acting delusional again, saying, yeah, I thought I won it. I thought I outlanded him.
He said he hurt him several times.
He didn't hurt Devin Haney once.
Yeah.
He hardly caught him with a clean shot, let alone hurt him. He lost. Listen, of the 12 rounds, and I scored it at the time, Daryl, I only had, I think I scored it 118, 110. I only had Kambosos winning 2 rounds. That was the 10th and the 12th. The 10th, even that was inconclusive. I just gave it to him on work rate. Yeah. The 12th round, it was fairly obvious to me that Devin knew he had the fight won, didn't want to take any risks. Something that I've seen hundreds of fighters do over many, many years. So I'm not knocking him for that. Okay, you give that round to Kambosos. He won 2 rounds max. How did those 2 judges have him winning 4 rounds? Yeah, I mean, it was a masterclass. Okay, it might not have been Arturo Gatti, Ward, Mickey Ward, but not every boxing fight's going to be that way. And for people to start criticizing Haney, I think they're being very disingenuous. You're not real boxing fans if you feel that way.
Can I say one thing? Sorry to cut you off. Can I say one thing? I feel like when people are talking about this, and I'm not getting overly enthusiastic about Haney, and neither am I criticizing the fight. I knew what it was from the start. It was an A-level fighter versus a C-level fighter. I did not expect a competitive fight. So when people are talking about it was boring, I expected a boring fight, because in order for there to be an entertainment factor for me, there has to be a certain level of competition. There wasn't a level. It's like me going one-on-one with Steph Curry. It's not gonna be entertaining because I'm not on his level. And it's the same thing. Like I said this after. It's not even that Kambosos isn't on Devin Haney's level. He's not even on the level below Devin Haney. There's multiple levels between where Devin Haney is and Kambosos. And I was saying it before the fight. This dude is so limited. He's extremely limited. C+ fighter at best.
Do you agree with Ash's comment here? Big up Ash. He said here, Kambosos lucked out on the worst night of Tio's life. Right. The game plan was one of the worst I've ever seen. Are we being a bit harsh on Kambosos? Or are you do you think...
Hang on a minute. What does that mean, lucked out? He was beaten from pillar to post with a jab. He hardly landed a punch.
No, he's talking about...
What does he mean?
He's saying Kambosos lucked out on the worst night of Teofimo Lopez's life.
Oh, right. Sorry.
So he's saying that Kambosos was lucky that he caught Tio when he did. And
I'm saying no. I reckon if he fought Tio again, he still gives Tio problems.
I don't think so.
Hang on. Styles make fights. You have to make the necessary adjustments. He wasn't able to make the adjustments to beat Devin Haney, despite knowing. I mean, listen, what Devin Haney did on Saturday night was no surprise, was it? We all knew that he was going to box behind the jab because that's what he always does, right? So I'm saying Devin Haney was able to impose his game plan on Kambosos, and Kambosos wasn't able to do anything or very little about it. What I'm saying, the onus was on Kambosos to turn it into the sort of fight that he wanted to turn it into, unless he could engage with Devin Haney's type of fight and beat him, which he couldn't. So then the onus is on Kambosos to go forward, go to the body, hit him, hurt him, do whatever. He couldn't do it. He was beaten by the better man. He was beaten resoundingly. Yeah. I don't want to hear no excuses about boring.
But are you saying but what Ash is saying here, he's saying that he caught Teofimo Lopez at the right time.
And I'm disagreeing because I'm saying styles make fights. If he fought Tio tomorrow, he'd probably beat Tio again.
No.
Hold on. I'm saying that the style, he could not cope with that style. Whereas with Tio's style, Tio has a style that he was able to compete against Tio.
Can I tell you why I say that's not necessarily correct? Because the way Teofimo Lopez fought Kambosos isn't the way Teofimo Lopez fought Comey or Lomachenko. You literally saw a dude who was extremely reckless, defensively didn't care about anything. He literally just thought, as soon as I land on this dude, I'm going to knock him out. Not to mention the psychological things that he was going through going into the fight. To me, I believe if Teofimo Lopez was mentally prepared and went in there like how he normally goes in there, he knocks Kambosos out. He almost knocked Kambosos out on the worst night of his life. He still dropped him and almost knocked him out.
You can't revise history like that. That's if, buts, and maybes. The fact is, he had 3 months to prepare for Kambosos. He went in there and he was beaten. That's it. I don't want to hear nothing about if I did this, if I did that. No.
I still don't rate Kambosos and for that performance. I still don't rate I'll never rate Kambosos for that performance. Because I think any top fighter would have beat Teofimo Lopez on that night. Any B-level fighter would have beat Kambosos on Teofimo Lopez on that night.
How far do you draw that reference? So then are we saying that the only reason he beat Lomachenko is because he had an off night then?
But I don't think...
No. Is that what you're saying? That the only reason that Tio beat Lomachenko is because Lomachenko had an off night. Lomachenko's claiming a shoulder injury. So Are we saying that that's the only reason why Teofimo beat Lomachenko then?
No, because I've seen Teofimo fight better in more than just a Lomachenko fight. I'm just saying in that fight itself, I saw Teofimo that I've never seen before in that Kambosos fight. And Kambosos isn't that good. Like, I'm being dead serious. He's not that good. He's a basic fighter. I'm being so honest. He's so basic. And I was saying this before the fight. This was so easy to call. Like,
now,
if
listen, even though I don't like the guy, you have to give credit where credit's due. He's beaten top performers. He beat Mickey Bay, beat Lee Selby. He was unbeaten before he fought Haney. Haney went over to Australia in the cauldron, 50,000 people, hostile territory, and he beat Kambosos and he beat him soundly. So let's give Haney credit for that rather than say Kambosos was totally garbage. He wasn't. He was a good fighter. You're right. He's not on the skills level of a Haney. We all said that before the fight. But there were certain intangibles there that could have made it a very difficult night for Devin Haney. In the end, Devin Haney went over there, won pretty much every round, and did a fantastic job. He did better than what I thought he would do, to be honest. Because me and Daryl was saying it could be one of them where, you know what I mean, he might, you know what I mean, come undone via the judges. And you saw how good Haney was because he had to win all those rounds to win the fight. Because if it had been competitive, looking at the scorecards those guys turned in on Saturday, if that fight would have been competitive, then mine and Daryl's worst fears would have been realised because Haney would have got jobbed on the cards, a bit like what Bivol was going to get jobbed on the cards.
Couple of comments here. Michael Max about the Teofimo Lopez Kambosos rematch. Michael Maxwell says here, I reckon that Teo would win that by KO. IB has said here, I completely disagree, Laurie. If there's a rematch, Teofimo Lopez fights a smarter fight. He told him, I'm going to knock you out in round one because Kambosos got in his head. Haney, on the other hand, never fell for it and he boxed smart. Remember, Teo was going through that. Was he going through a divorce or something at the time?
Yeah, his wife left him with a baby or like 4 or 5 days after his baby was born or something ridiculous like that. And you go into a fight like that. I mean, to me, mentally, you can't go into a fight after going through that level of trauma and then be fighting the same. I don't think you will. And he still almost knocked Kambosos out. He still almost not. Like, Kambosos was fighting for his life in round 10 when he got dropped.
You know what? I don't want to hear these excuses, man. At the end of the day, a lot of fighters go into fights not quite fit for whatever reason. A lot of fighters have personal problems. A lot of fighters will tell you they feel more at home when they're in the ring. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna have that, man. I'm not gonna have that.
I bet you this right now.
Hang on.
I bet you
he went in there, right? And Kambosos beat him fair and square. Simple as that.
I bet
Haney
you this
went
right
in
now.
on Saturday night and he beat Kambosos fair and square. That's it.
I bet you this right now. I bet you Kambosos doesn't achieve nothing for the rest of his career. I bet he doesn't achieve nothing for the rest of his career. He doesn't win any world title for the rest of his career. I will bet anybody that. Because when you look at that 130...
may not be the case. That may or may not be the case. But up until Saturday night, Kambosos had fought 20 times and he had not lost. The first person to defeat him is Devin Haney. And I think we should stop talking about Teo, right? And give Haney the credit he deserves for his victory on Saturday. Because if we don't do that, then we're being disingenuous to Team Haney.
Haney was already always an elite fighter. I didn't need to see him fight a C-level fighter to prove that.
He's 20. Hey, Shane, he's 23 years old and he's the undisputed lightweight champion. People were criticizing him before, calling him an email champion. He's now got all the belts. He did something that very few fighters in today's boxing is prepared to do. Went over to a foreign land, took the short end of the deal in terms of a purse, had to sign a ridiculous contract, did all those things that we're always asking these guys to do. Devin Haney did that. And even before going to Australia, he'd been calling out Lomachenko, been calling out Tank, been calling out Teo, all of them. None of them wanted to fight him. He got his opportunity. He took it with both hands. And I think we should give the man credit instead of talking about how bad Kambosos was or how only Kambosos only got the title because he fought a TO that was having problems with his wife. I don't think that's fair on Haney. That's all I'm saying.
Let's talk about the aftermath. You know, Devin Haney's undisputed, but there is, of course, a rematch clause. And Kambosos said in the post-fight interview that he was going to activate the clause. Now, before everyone in the comments, you two, before everybody says, no, I don't want to see that, no, it wasn't competitive and whatever, do you have a little bit of like, due to the fact that there was a rematch clause in the contract, Kambosos did have to, you know, do it the hard way to get the belts. He protected himself by getting a rematch clause. Everyone else seems to be activating them. We were saying the same thing after AJ and Usyk, that we shouldn't be a rematch. So are we being a bit too harsh on Kambosos for saying that he's going to activate the rematch clause or not? Like, does he deserve the chance to have it again, to run it back?
I think he does. I think he does, yeah. I think he does. And I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, they did sign up for it. Listen, I don't agree with rematch clauses for the most part. I've said on your show many times before, Daryl, that I only think rematches should be granted in certain circumstances. However, we live in a different world now. Rematch clauses seem to be part and parcel of fight contracts at the moment. Devin did sign it, so he has to honor that. Do I want to see a rematch? Not really. Then I didn't want to see a rematch of a number of fights, you know what I mean, including Triple G and Canelo, and that's happening this year. But no, for the most part, I don't agree with immediate rematches unless there's a circumstance which, in my view, justifies it. So, in short answer to your question, Daryl, I don't really want to see a rematch. However, the fact that Devin did sign up to it, I think you should honor it, yes.
Shane?
I mean, someone would have to tell me the point of it. I mean, I can't see the result being any different. And I can't see, I mean, Kambosos has to think about his career at the end of the day. And this is like a final cash out for him. So we might as well take the rematch, isn't it? Because he's not going to get any other big paydays after this. So you might as well just take the rematch.
I think the economics of the situation might dictate. So I would imagine that if you're Lou DiBella, you might be having a conversation with Kambosos and saying, listen, I know you want the rematch. However, I'm not sure how much this will sell. And also, George, I'm not sure if you can beat a star like Haney. Maybe we should go a different route and maybe wait for Haney to move up in weight, because Devin's already gone on the record as saying that he's going to make a couple of defenses at that title and then he's going to move up to 140. So if Kambosos bides his time, has a couple of interim fights, who knows? He might, be in the shake-up for another shot.
Couple of questions for you both here. I've got K22 here. Big up K22. He says here, I would love to see Haney versus Shakur at 135. It's a high-level chess match. Who wins it? Then I've got a question for you, Shane, from Harvey. So I'll let you two answer this one first.
I think Shakur. I would lean towards Shakur against Haney, to be honest. I lean towards Shakur against Haney.
Yeah, I would agree.
For me, I'd like to see Shakur do what Haney's done at 135 and, clean up all the belts at 130, which means he'd probably have to fight Joe Cordina. That would be a great fight. I want to see Haney fight, one of the top guys at lightweight.
What about Loma? Like Ash was saying, what about Loma?
Yeah, or Lomachenko. But we don't know what's
thing.
happening with Lomachenko's situation in Ukraine, do we? You don't know how long he's going to be out the ring for.
That's the unfortunate thing. I respect Devin Haney. I think he's the youngest undisputed champion in history of the four-belt era. I've got to give him all the credit. But the unfortunate thing is because no one wants to fight him, or no one has decided to fight him, he's basically become undisputed without fighting the best in the division. No one had thought Kambosos was the best in the division. You would have put Loma or Tank ahead of Kambosos. So it's a bit unfortunate, I just love to see him fight a Lomachenko or a Tank Davis.
Punch Mullet says here, Pitbull Cruz will beat Kambosos. Harvey saying here, Shane, does this mean that you won't give AJ full credit if he beats Usyk in the rematch because of what Usyk and his country are going through currently? Because I don't think I would be able to.
Now, the truth is, that's a bit of a difficult situation because I personally don't know what mental state Usyk is. But the difference in this situation is Usyk and AJ are both top level fighters. Whilst I've criticized AJ multiple times, AJ's always been a top level fighter. Kambosos has never been a top level fighter for me. So that's the difference. So,
yeah, I hear you. Francisco says
listen, I don't disagree with this stuff. At the end of the day, Kambosos won the belts fair and square. He was the champion. So I don't want to be hearing he took it off Tio because Tio was got mental problems or he had injuries. Because if you remember, when Lomachenko lost his belts to Tio and he came out with his shoulder injury, there were people like myself, Shane, you, Daryl, lambasting Lomachenko and said, look, we don't want to hear no excuses because you never said that before the fight.
right.
And if you had those in, you should have pulled out of the fight. We can go all the way back to Manny Pacquiao. After he'd been beaten by Floyd, the man citing shoulder injury, which nearly led him to get
your question then, Larry? Can I ask you a question?
So what I'm saying is we shouldn't take too much of these excuses things into context. If Usyk fights Joshua and loses to him and then comes out and says, you know what, the only reason why I lost to Joshua was because of the Ukraine war, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy it. Because if you're not fit to fight either physically or mentally, don't go in there, bro. It's as brutal as that. It's the truth.
Go on, Shane.
I want to ask you a question because you're bringing up this Kambosos thing. So my statement was I've never regarded Kambosos as a top level lightweight. So my question is, do you think Kambosos beats Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, Devin Haney, or Lomachenko?
And
Any
my
of those
question
four
to you is, did you think that
No, you got to answer that.
No, but I am answering it. No, my answer is we don't know because we didn't know that Kambosos was going to beat Teofimo, but he beat him. You know what I mean? So you can't.
What
we
do
can
you
have our
think?
opinions.
If the fight was to happen, what would you think? What would you put your money on?
But Shane, what I'm saying, I've watched enough boxing over the years to know that you cannot just make straight predictions like that. You can't. Who thought Cordina was going to knock out Ogawa in the second round like that? Who thought that?
I didn't.
Cordina's not even a puncher.
I
He
didn't,
wasn't
but
the favourite to
I
win.
just want to know when we're ranking the 135 division. I don't have Kambosos in my top 5, and I'm just keeping it 100.
Fair enough. But you may not have had him in your top 5, but he was a legitimate champion. That's my point. So by doing what you're doing now, Shane, inadvertently, you are denigrating what Devin Haney's done on Saturday. And I'm not going to do that without saying what I'm saying. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you may not have rated Kambosos as the best in the division, but he had the belts. That's the difference. Bit like when Crawford knocked out Ngongo to become undisputed champion of the world. People then started saying, yeah, but Ngongo weren't no good. But
the difference is with Crawford actually had legitimate wins at 140. And the difference with Kambosos is Kambosos was Terence Crawford was seen by many as the best at 140. If you ask most people at who's the best at 135, they're either going to say Tank Davis, Devin Haney, or Lomachenko. Nobody is going to say Kambosos. No one is going to say that.
Got a couple comments here. Big up Ozzy Mandius in the chat here. He says, Shane, you need to behave. But Punch Smollett is saying here, go and get him, Shane. We've got Ash here. He said here, I agree, Laurie. Usyk has the freedom from the governing bodies not to fight if he's not ready. So no excuses if he loses.
I don't want to hear no excuses. Listen, we all know what's happening in Ukraine. And listen, it's not a nice situation, I'm sure, right? Usyk, on the other hand, has a choice. You either take the fight or you don't take the fight. If you lose, and I'm saying if, because he is actually the favorite to win, I don't want to hear Usyk use the Ukraine thing as an excuse because you've entered into this willingly. You're going in there of your own volition. It's not like you've been forced. So if you go in there to fight and you lose, please don't come out and say it's because of what happened in the war. Because, you know what I mean, you were beaten on the night and that's it. There's not going to be an asterisk against Joshua's name to say, well, Joshua reclaimed the titles, but he only reclaimed them because Usyk's country is caught up in a war. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? That's, you know what I mean? We have to be brutally honest and just be accepting of that. You know what I mean? That's it. So if
Yeah.
what I'm saying is if Tio had marital problems, and that may or may not be true, then that's not George Kambosos' fault, is it? He had to go in there and beat him, and that's what he did. Sorry.
That's what he did.
Let's wrap this up on Tio and Kambosos before we move on to Cordina. Let's say that the rematch doesn't happen between the two, and I'll start off with you, Laurie. Who would you like? Because like Shane said earlier, like people in the comments have said earlier, there's a whole host of names at lightweight for Devin Haney to fight. So I want to know, actually, I've got 2 points. I want to know where you think Haney goes next, if not Kambosos. Who would you like to see him in with? And also, does he crack your pound for pound lists? We'll start with you, Laurie.
That's a good question, actually. I think if Kambosos, if as expected, triggers the rematch clause, even though I don't want to see it, as I said earlier, I think Devon should honour that, because at the end of the day, despite what we said about Kambosos, you know, I mean, he did come out with some real crass and corny stuff, did become very unlikable to a lot of people in the build-up. But at the end of the day, and Devon said this himself, he was given a shot by Kambosos, and I think he should honour the rematch, even though I'm not in favour of rematches. So if he fights Kambosos, presumably he will beat him again. I predict he'll beat him again. And then after that, Lomachenko, Tank, any of those guys, you know what I mean? I just, one thing I do hope, I hope that someone like Ryan Garcia doesn't get an undeserved shot. He's going to have to beat somebody that warrants him getting a shot at the title. That's all I would say about that. So if he does fight Ryan Garcia, I don't want it to be because Ryan Garcia is ducking and diving other fighters and had one fight against a mediocre opponent, and then all of a sudden he's the one that's put forward. I want to see somebody deserving of the shot. I don't mind who it is as long as they're deserving of the shot.
Couple comments here. Ozzy Mandia said, Haney has cracked my pound for pound list. He's number 7. Asher said here, Ash, I feel you, man. I'm guilty of it too. I am. But he said here, these pound for pound lists need to stop every week. When a fighter wins, someone says they need to be in the top 10. There's no space. Lloyd, is there any space?
I would say just quickly, he wouldn't be on my pound for pound list just yet, to be honest. No, not
Haney wouldn't be. Okay.
No.
I think, yeah. The pound for pound list conversation every week is just an indication of the trajectory that we are as boxing fans, where we are, the direction in where we're going. Because it seems like every week we're getting unifications or undisputed fights. And obviously not the case, but for those who have been watching boxing in the dark ages, like we watched boxing in the dark ages, you know, there was hardly any unifications or any undisputed fight. There was 12 years between Jermaine Taylor and Terence Crawford where we saw no undisputed. And then since this is why I say Terence Crawford got to get a lot of credit. Since Terence Crawford, we've seen 8 or 7 undisputed fights. We saw Charlo Castano twice. We saw Canelo Plant, that will happen. We saw Usyk Gassiev, that was undisputed. We saw Taylor Ramirez, that was undisputed. Devin Haney was also undisputed. We're seeing so many undisputed fights. And it's just a great thing to see the direction. The best is actually finally fighting the best. And we're seeing one champion, one face, one name. So I feel like the pound for pound talk is only happening because of where we are right now in boxing.
Francisco says here, Haney versus Loma or versus Tank would be great. And Haney has to be on the pound for pound list. I've got to give him credit for being undisputed. My prediction, Haney versus Loma. I need to see what Loma, do you know what I mean? Because he's getting a bit older now. You know, he's not vintage Loma as he was before. So I don't know. I'll probably favor Haney over him slightly right now. Tank, I think that Haney could be outboxing him throughout, but then he could get caught with something because he can get caught. And like, that's 50-50 for me. Who else is there? Ryan Garcia, I think he beats him with the jab. I think Ryan Garcia is susceptible to that. He can be wide open at times. But I think that the Tank fight at 135 is probably the most dangerous for him.
Me as well. I think the Tank fight is the best fight. Tank and Shakur, I know Shakur's at 130, but Tank and Shakur are the 2 fights I want to see Devin Haney take the most.
I think, to add my little bit to that, I think those are attractive matchups, but I would give Haney more than an even money chance against any of those guys. I think he's too young and fresh for Loma, and that height advantage and the jab and the youth and stuff like that, I think would be a massive factors in his favor. Same goes for Tank. I think his height and reach and jab and his footwork would give Tank all manner of problems. We've seen Tank get outboxed at times by Santa
facts.
Cruz. So if Leo Santa Cruz can do it, I'm sure Devin Haney can do it.
But he got caught though.
Rolly Romero was doing all right, man. Rolly Romero was doing okay until he got stopped. But maybe that was part of the game plan.
That's a different type of fight, though. He was just kind of bull rushing Tank. It wasn't real proper boxing, really, was it, to be fair? But listen, the Tank fight is an intriguing fight because we know Tank can put man to sleep with either hand. So it's whether Devin can avoid getting caught by some of those big shots. But he's definitely got the capabilities to outbox Tank, 100%. And I'd love to see the fight. And let's be fair to Haney, man. He's been calling these guys out from time, and they haven't fought him. There must be a reason.
What about Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney? He's got the tool frame. You know,
no.
Ryan Garcia's got power.
Ryan gets schooled. Ryan gets schooled purely and simply because, to be fair, and this is just a generic thing. Most Mexicans or Mexican style fighters, they just don't have the foot speed and the transitional footwork to cut off someone like Devin Haney. Like, he's just way too technical for someone like Ryan Garcia. Also, he's very easy to hit. You know, he's a dude who likes to fight with his hands down as well. He'll just walk into punches. He does have the long and tall frame, but he's going to get beat by Devin Haney 10 times out of 10.
Well, they did have history in the
and
amateurs, didn't they?
we also have to give Haney credit is that I imagine this is that now having won the title, he's only going to get better. I don't think he's going to do a George Kambosos and just start acting out a character and taking on this whole nother new persona that doesn't suit him. I think with his dad and the people around him, he'll stay relatively grounded. And I think he'll work hard and he'll improve and he'll become better. And we also have to factor in, he'll start getting his man strength. And when he gets his man strength, he'll probably be able to be a bit more physically stronger and probably sit down on his punches a bit more as well. So I'm expecting him in the next couple of years to improve immensely. So his ceiling is high right now, man.
Yeah, I think the only one that might have a higher ceiling at the moment, I'd say right now, is probably Shakur. Around that, I think Tank's 27. I don't think his ceiling can get much higher now. I think he's got more potential than Ryan Garcia at the moment. I think there is a fighter in there, but we're just the social media stuff, man. He just needs to get focused. I'm not writing him off like Ozzy Mandia says here. I'm not going to write him off, but I think he has got potential, right? He's definitely talented. We know that. Just need to see it a bit more from him. And there's other guys out there as well. Lightweight division is hot. We know that. There's still fights out there to be made for Kambosos too, should he not win against Haney. Like Punch Smollett was saying, I think that fight against Pitbull will be good. I wouldn't mind seeing that. And Kambosos is quick as well. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we can't write him off completely, man. I'm not saying he wins it, but he still makes us some good fights.
Yeah. Listen, like I said earlier, Kambosos, when he beat Tio, he was getting a lot of props. He won the title. The dude started acting out a character. He was acting a real arsehole in the lead up to the Devin Haney fight for a number of reasons we don't need to go into right now. But at the end of the day, man, he's only lost once and he's lost quality fighter. So
is it me that's saying a cracker?
Yeah, Laurie, your connection's not great. Your connection ain't great, Laurie. It keeps cutting out. So we didn't get that.
Yeah, what I was saying was prior to the weekend, Kambosos was an unbeaten fighter who had gone into enemy territory and relieved Teofimo Lopez of his titles, right? So he has to be respected. I don't think it's right just because he's lost one fight to write him off completely. He's still a top-level fighter. And we don't know how his career is going to play out, which is what I was saying.
We got people in the comments here. They want us to talk about it, and it's only right we talk about it. Punch Smollett says here, now at Inoue and Nonito Donaire tomorrow, that is going to be a real boxing fight. Francisco has said here, yeah, the Flash versus the Monster tomorrow. Who have you guys got? First fight, incredible fight. One of the fighters of Fight of the Year candidates. It was great to see. That fight, like I said on the show last week, it showed me that Inoue had a bit of a human side to him because I expected him to walk through Donaire at that stage, but he didn't. It was very difficult for him, which warrants the rematch. For some reason, I just think that Inoue it's going to be a lot more conclusive this time round in the rematch? I think that he's going to, I think he will be. Just me.
I think I see where you're coming from 100%. I feel like we also have to respect what Donaire done last year.
Yeah.
You know, the knockout win over Gabalo, the knockout win over Obali. Those are two fights where he went in as, if not underdogs. He was an underdog in the Obali fight, and he was at least 50-50 with the Gabalo fight. And knockouts, I think in the third round and fourth round of both fights, I think he got I feel like that also earned him the right to get a rematch with Inoue. I think the momentum is definitely helped Donaire, but at some point, age is going to play a factor. I do think it's going to be another entertaining fight because Inoue loves a scrap and Donaire's got power. But I just feel like Inoue's ability and his skills on a whole is just a little bit more superior than Donaire. And obviously, Donaire's looking to land the power punches. He can always hurt on Inoue. But overall, I think Inoue's going to do enough to win the fight and probably win by like a late stoppage or something. But I do think he's going to have problems early in the fight, though, because Donaire starts fights pretty quick.
Laurie, do you think that this is either going to be one of those fights where it's always going to be heavy duty, it's always going to be tough, competitive between the two, or do you think that Inoue will pull through in this one and be more conclusive than he was last time? Like, how do you see it going?
I see this being a difficult fight for Inoue, man, because I've been following Donaire's progress online, and he seems to be taking this fight extremely seriously, which you would expect him to do. But he also seems very confident, and obviously he did very well last time, and he thinks he can do it. He genuinely believes he can do it. And I feel that belief when I've seen him interviewed and I've seen him work out. But then again, he's up against the monster, man. You know what I mean? A phenomenon, a modern day phenomenon. So I would go along with what Shane. I think it's going to be, while it lasts, a very exciting fight. I would give Inoue the edge, but I'm kind of low key hoping that Donaire can pull it off, man. I think it's unlikely because, like I said, it is the monster we're talking about. But listen, man, I think Donaire's going to make it very competitive while it lasts. And I'm going to be intrigued watching this fight. I can't wait.
It is in Japan tomorrow. I mean, that didn't make a difference really last time because Donaire was right in there. Do you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, I think it, you know what? Thinking about, I think it will always be competitive between the two, man. But for some reason, I just think Inoue will either win a bit more conclusively than he did last time. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for him, but I just think that
it could be one of those that styles make fights. Maybe Donaire has a style that Inoue finds difficult for whatever reason, you know. And maybe that was why that last fight was so competitive. And maybe there's little subtleties, little adjustments that Donaire is able to produce that Inoue finds difficult to contend with compared to other guys before.
Yeah, it's like
Donaire is a very experienced fighter. You know what I mean?
I was like, if you look at the 118-pound division, you know, one thing that Inoue always separates himself from all the other fighters is his explosiveness, you know, his speed, his power. But Donaire is someone who also has a high level of power. A lot of Inoue's opponents, whilst they might be skilled, they might be quick, they can't match him in terms of punch power. I think that's why this fight is always going to be interesting. This is one person in the division, bang for bang. If he hits you and you hit him, it's going to be a collision. You know, there's going to be. He can normally take other people's shots. Not saying he can't take Donaire's shots, but Donaire's got a different type of power to all his other opponents, and that's why it's always going to be an interesting fight.
Diaz says here,
yeah, I mean, it might be one of those where Inoue has to walk through the fire to get the win. He might get dropped or he might get hurt. I mean, listen, Nonito Donaire's left hook is one of the best left hooks in boxing. I don't say that lightly because there's some big left hookers in boxing, but that guy's been knocking people with that left hook for many, many years, and it's a potent force. So if he's able to land it, Inoue will know about it, you know. So maybe that was a reason as well, like Shane says, he's had to respect that power. He's not been able to walk through Donaire the way he was other people. So that left hook of Donaire's, man, keeps him honest. That might have a lot to do with why he was able to do that well last time out.
Diaz says here, Inoue is going to stop Donaire between 4 and 6. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see, man. It's possible.
Can I bring up one name that, and I know you're the one who's controlling the sector, so I just have to do this. I feel like one person who I feel like is always getting overshone, no matter where it is and how it is, because of his fights and when he fights, there's always something bigger that happens on the days he fights, and that's Stephen Fulton. If you look at Fulton's career and you look at what he's done in the last 3-4 fights, I feel like he's another person who's really disrespected in the sport of boxing.
Let's get on to him now, because we were going to talk about him later, but obviously he was in action over the weekend. Made it a lot easier than I thought he would against Danny Roman. And I guess the fight now, what everyone wants to see is him against Akhmadaliev, isn't it? So,
I stayed up and watched that fight. And I have to say, I was majorly impressed. A lot of people said that Danny Roman was going to give Fulton a lot of problems. Some people had even picked Roman to beat him. They said he had the style to beat Fulton. And don't forget, Fulton was coming off the back of a very hard fight against Figueroa, a fight in which some people had said that he may have even lost. So for him to come off the back of a hard fight like that, go into what was supposedly a 50-50 or a 60-40 fight like this, and produce the sort of performance that he did, he deserves immense credit, because I watched the fight and he pitched virtually a shutout against a quality opponent. And unlike the criticism that was leveled at Kambosos, Roman did actually try to do stuff in there, but he came up short. And Fulton pretty much had his way with Danny Roman. So that was incredibly impressive. Maybe he should be on the pound for pound listings.
Yeah. This is
Not everyone's agreeing. Aussie Man Diaz is saying here 8 KOs in 21 fights. Nah, I'm not feeling Fulton.
Okay,
Ash is saying here Akhmadaliev beat Roman in his 8th fight. It took 21 fights for Fulton to do it. There's levels to this. So yeah, not everyone's on the same train.
So wait, I'm glad you brought that up. For one, I'm a massive fan of Akhmadaliev as well. Akhmadaliev was an Olympian. He's done everything in the amateur careers. We know how Uzbeki, Ukrainian fighters come. When they come through, they go through quick. So it's not about that. It's about where they were in their careers. And I hear what you're saying about Akhmadaliev. He's actually got a tough fight against Rios in his next fight. But with Fulton, this is what I love the most about Fulton, and I can never take it away. When he fought Angelo Leo, he took Angelo Leo's style and beat him at his own style. When he fought Figueroa, he could have boxed off the back foot, danced and boxed. He went in the pocket and traded out with Figueroa, and on some people's scorecards and on the main scorecard, he won. This is a dude who's shown on numerous occasions you can give it and take it anywhere you like it. And yes, he's only got, I don't know how many knockouts and how many fights, but he doesn't have to have knockouts because he's schooling dudes. He's literally schooling fighters. And look how much undefeated fighters he's fought in the time that he's been at 122 pounds. This dude does not get the respect. Trust me, he's a top fighter.
Navarrete will RIP Fulton into pieces.
He's not even in the same weight class. They're not even in the same weight class. The way he's not even in the same weight class. They're not even in the same weight class.
Go on, Laurie.
There seems to be some people in this chat today that they're obsessed with KOs, man. They don't seem to realize that boxing is about a lot more than that. You know what I mean? Because if it was just about KOs, then Deontay Wilder would still be heavyweight champion of the world. You know what I mean? So it's not just about knockouts and stuff like that. Yes, it's great to have a big punch. Yes, it's exciting to see people get knocked out. But there's a lot more to boxing than that, man. You know what I mean? It's not called the sweet science for no reason. It's about skills as well. And Fulton is blessed with a lot of skills, as he displayed on Saturday night. He was superb. Did everything, man. Movement, boxing, stood in the pocket when he had to. You know what I mean? If you want to, he's one of those guys, and I'm being serious now, that if you've got a young kid, right, you're trying to educate him on the nuances of the game and what it's like to be a professional boxer or a boxer period, you could easily show him a video of a Stephen Fulton fight and say, yeah, study that. He's that good.
He brought up Akhmadaliev. So let me ask you a question. You watch Akhmadaliev fight Danny Roman and you watch Fulton fight Danny Roman. They both went to the 12 rounds. Who was more convincing in that fight? Who was more convincing in the fight against Danny Roman? Fulton or Ahmed Alive? Because I didn't see Roman win 2 rounds against Fulton. He actually got schooled. So I don't know what you mean. He got beat in his 8. He won it in his 8th fight, but it was a split decision. It wasn't like how Fulton swooped Danny Roman. So it's a completely different thing.
Well, listen, that is the fight to be made next, isn't it? Be for undisputed as well. Hopefully we do get that to... I mean, you know what? As boxing fans, we complain a lot, but we have had our fair share of big fights, man, for undisputed as well. This is the natural fight to make now. It's the only fight really to make at junior lightweight. Who wins that?
Who? Ahmed Alive and Fulton. The struggle is Ahmed Alive does have the power, but he's got to land the punches against Fulton. If he don't land the money shot, he loses. Because Fulton will school him in most rounds. Like literally will school him in most rounds. Ahmed Alive does have heavy feet. So for him to stay and keep the distance with him, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But Ahmed Alive does have the punching power. So definitely.
Punch Mullet says here, what do you lot think?
For me, the way Fulton's fighting at the moment, I couldn't back against it. I'm not saying Ahmed Alive doesn't have a shot. Of course, he's a very good boxer with a very good punch. So he has to be respected. But the way I've seen Fulton perform in his last couple of performances, the confidence with his boxing, the skills that he's showing, I couldn't back against him right now. I really couldn't.
We'll get on to Morrell in a bit. Jerry says here, how do you guys think Fulton would do at 126?
I mean, he's a short 122-pound fighter, but he does have a good frame. But to me,
is obviously his featherweight. Sorry, carry on.
No, to me, 126 doesn't have the talent. I mean, if you put him in there with Magsayo, I'd pick him to win. But there is Navarrete. Navarrete is a tough fight. You know, obviously Ray Vargas is also at 126 as well. So there's good fighters at 126, but there's also certain fighters at 126. Like if you put him in there with what's my dude that just Kiko Martinez, I'll pick him to beat Kiko. I'd actually pick him even to beat Warrington, to be honest. I'm being dead serious. I just feel like his boxing skills will get him through. You know, power isn't everything.
No,
big up Oaks here, man. Yeah, sorry, go on, Laurie.
No, yeah, Shane's right there. Power isn't everything. And, you know, I mean, sooner or later with these power punches, you're going to come across the guys who can take the punch. Then what? You got to have something else. Now, with Magsayo, for example, when he fought Russell Jr., he looked bereft of ideas in there. I think the only reason he won that fight was because Gary Russell was clearly carrying an injury in that fight because he was one-handed. Fair play to Magsayo, he got the win. So, you know, he's on the record getting the win. But I think we saw his limitations in that fight. So, you know, and Garcia is not a big featherweight. So Fulton might be looking at that and thinking, yeah, that's a belt you could eye up, to be honest. Because he's definitely got the skill set to do very well against Max. I'm not going to lie.
Big up Obes here. Good to see you here, brother. He says here, Fulton is cool, but my guy Aleem deals with him, no.
I like Rais Aleem as well. Rais Aleem's a good fighter.
Asher said here, oh, this must be a response to you, Shane. He said here, so he still won in 8 fights. If he'd waited until 21, I'm sure it would have been much easier for him as well.
Well, if he even has 21 fights in his career, then we can make that statement. But I don't think he will because they don't fight for that long. I mean, you're sounding like you're just jumping on a train. You know that fighters from this country, they have a lot of. Usyk was an undisputed champion in 10 fights or round about that. You know, he did. Fighters from that part of the world, they have long, extensive amateur careers. Whereas fighters from America and the Americas like Mexico and wherever, they have less of an amateur career and they turn pro earlier. So it's what level they're fighting at. You know, it has nothing to do with how many fights you've had.
Yeah. Obes said here, Fulton probably beats MJ. It's a great fight. Punch Smollett says here, Lewis Neary gives Fulton problems.
Different weight class again, but no, Neary's at that weight class right now. Neri just lost to Figueroa, but he came up with a good win. I think Neri just beat someone the other day, Carlos Castro. Neri just had a good win the other day on the Furman Barrios undercard. Neri had a good win. Neri's a good fighter.
Yeah. Michael Maxwell says here, I think anyone who displays exceptional boxing skills, people start relating to Floyd Mayweather, and they can't separate the personalities from the skill levels. We did see comparisons being made to Floyd when Haney beat Kambosos. I remember Shakur Stevenson when he beat Oscar Valdez. You know, what do you make of them comparisons? I mean, no one's saying that. Well, surely they're not saying that they are Floyd Mayweather, because you got a long way to go for that. But can you relate to it, or do you think that people are being too soon with those sort of comparisons there?
Was that for me?
Either of you. I don't know if Laurie's still. Laurie, you still there?
Yeah, I guess it's for me then.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like when you start to see certain fighters replicate the style, then you can start to say, you know, when a fighter comes from a certain country and they start replicating the style, they start to naturally relay it back to the person who originated that style. So I understand why they do it, but obviously it's not fair to compare someone like a Shakur, Devin Haney, or anyone to a Floyd Mayweather. You know, Floyd Mayweather is an elite fighter who's had an elite career. A lot of these dudes are still young, you know, but in their respect, they have the ability to surpass Floyd. You know, Floyd's never been an undisputed champion. Devin Haney's an undisputed champion. You know, that will go down in history. So, yeah.
By the way, Laurie's dropped off, so I'll get him back on. I don't know what. It's definitely his phone. It's definitely because listen, I'm plugged in and like our stream's working fine, so it's definitely his connection or his phone. So I'm sure he'll sort that back out. But a couple more comments here to go through before we move on to Cordina. Asher said here, 126 is a very weak weight class. Aussie Man Diaz is saying here Fulton would get rinsed there, so he's not rating Fulton at all. Punch Mullet says here Bronco Lara sparks them all. Jerry saying here, I agree with you, Ash. That's why I think he'll do well. So he's talking about
120. I think a better question would be if Inoue beats Donaire, Inoue moves up to 122. That's a better fight for me. You know, the winner of Ahmed Elias Fulton versus Inoue. I think if any of those dudes move up to 126, they will be competitive because that weight class isn't that strong anyway.
Big up, Laurie. We got him back in the building, man. You all there? Everything all good?
I hope so. I don't know what happened, man. I've switched to another Wi-Fi, so hopefully this one will be a bit better. I missed some of that conversation. What was that regarding?
Just about Fulton and you know, how he'd do at featherweight, really. Look, going through the comments, there's a bit of like some people are agreeing, some people not agreeing with how well they'd think he'd do. We got Stefan here in the building, my bro. It's good to see him here, man. He knows his stuff. He said here, what's up, guys? Fulton is definitely top 10 pound for pound. One of the best resumes in boxing.
No, in my pound for pound.
Based on his most recent performances, man, there is an argument for putting him up there. You know what I mean? But then, you know,
it's just hard because who do you take out? Like Ash was saying before, like, who do you take out?
And this is why the list. That's why I never take pound for pound too seriously. To be honest, it's a subjective thing. It's something that fans like to discuss, but it doesn't really mean that much at the end of the day. I guess it does mean if you're pound for pound number one, then I guess in terms of your marketing and how you're perceived, then it is important. But if you're like lower down the listings, does it really make that much difference?
I don't think it does. And I think that's a good point. But, you know, since Floyd, there's never really been a general consensus pound for pound number one. Some people will say Canelo, Crawford. Canelo's never been like a general consensus. It's only a certain fan base that would have said Canelo, you know.
He's never been pound for pound on my, but we know why. I've stated.
I think there was a time when nearly everyone was saying Canelo.
I don't know how people could say Canelo over Usyk. That's the part I've never understood. How anyone could say.
I don't know how somebody can be elevated to pound for pound number one and you're a convicted 2 times drugs cheat, but that's just me and my age. But I just don't.
I mean, if you're gonna look at it like that, then definitely.
Yeah. But then that's my thought process. I'm not expecting people to concur with that. And there have been other great fighters down the years who have been pound for pound, who were convicted drug cheat. I mean, look at Roy Jones. You know what I mean? But listen, I'm very firm on that. I'm not saying he's not a great fighter, but would I have him as my pound for pound number one and you are a drugs cheat? No, hell no. No chance.
Big up OS here, man. He says, I like this new guy, man. His energy is on another level. Like, listen, man, we need to, every time Shane comes on, he gets his flowers from people in the comments, man.
I'm not
but
necessarily
Shane's very smart. Shane's a bit like Canelo. He only comes on after a win, innit? So Shane, he's very good. He's very clever. He cherry picks his appearances. When he gets it wrong, he don't come on. You know,
the truth is, I don't mind coming on any time. I don't get the invite all the time, you know. I don't always get the invite.
No, I'm only joking, bro. I'm only joking.
No, but no, honestly, I don't mind coming on any time, and obviously I respect that. You know, it's fun. I come here. I'm not necessarily new. I've known Laurie and Lowdown for quite a while now, and I've been on this channel a few times. So. Yeah,
well, listen, I remember that first time. I always tell this story of the first time I met Shane. I'm going to keep it brief. It was an open workout, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dylan White reverse.
Yeah, I think I'd gone down to support Dan Aziz. Shout out to Dan Aziz if he's watching. And we was out there by the Thames Bank, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
By the Tower of London. I was doing an open workout there. And I just saw this guy holding like. It's surrounded by these people, and he was a little crowd had gathered around, and you were arguing with somebody about something, and I think you were saying that you didn't rate Daniel Dubois. And man were coming for you, man. I was like, rah, you don't rate Daniel Dubois, and these guys were like throwing all these questions at him, and he was standing there just, I don't rate him. I don't rate him. He's got no footwork. He's got no skills. I was like, really? And what impressed me about Shane is that he was holding his own. All these guys were coming at him. Nah, man, how can you say that? You don't know nothing. And my man was standing there holding court, firing back. I thought, bro, one thing, even whether I agree or don't agree, he was making some salient points and he was holding his own. I was quite impressed with that. And then we got talking and the rest is history. And here he is today. I'd never met him. I didn't know him at all.
Dubois fighting this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fighting Trevor Bryan.
Yeah.
Who's the promoter for this fight?
Don King.
Are you sure King's still promoting this fight?
Well, I know Trevor Bryan was a Don King fighter.
But I just saw Frank Warren promoting it the other day. But maybe he was just doing Don King a favor.
Well, I know that Frank Warren and Don King, kind of surprisingly in many respects, they get along very well, don't they?
Yeah.
I've often heard Frank Warren talking glowing terms about Don King and vice versa.
What's the poster about? You seen the poster for this fight?
Yeah.
Fight for freedom and peace. What does that mean?
Yeah, I didn't understand it because I was a bit confused myself.
Sounds like a Don King slogan, actually. I think it's fair to say that Don King and Frank Warren get on better than Leonard Ellaby and Eddie Hearn. Maybe they should have put that on the undercard.
That looks like a male strip club poster. That's what that looks like. That doesn't look like a fight.
Well, how many male strip clubs have you been to, bro?
None.
Too much information. Let's stick to boxing.
Go to some comments here. Big up Obes. He says here, after tomorrow, I'll redo my pound for pound. So yeah, again, more pound for pound talking here. Big up Florida Boxing Club. I see you. Jerry says here, that poster is awful. Conrad has said here, I'm late to the party. What a masterclass by Haney. Big up DS, Aussie man DS. I see all you guys, man. Let's talk about Cordina, man. We got to mention him. Do you know, a lot of elation in the ring after that win. To be fair, I was going into that fight. You know, I knew of Ogawa, but I was honest. Like, I'm not going to pretend. I haven't seen much of him. All I knew that he was heavy-handed. But fantastic ending. I didn't expect Cordina to win like that. And he did. A beautiful one-punch knockout. Elation scenes in the ring afterwards. And I saw a lot of people, man, you know, Okoli, you know, his teammates, Okoli, AJ. He seems to be like a universally liked guy, Cordina, man. And you could see in his personality as well. there's not really anything to dislike about the guy. So I was happy for him, especially after, because I wasn't aware until Laurie told me off camera that Ogawa had tested positive. He got busted before. So that made me feel even better for Cordina, man. But Laurie, I'll let you cook on it first.
Yeah, it was very impressive, and I'm very happy for Cordina. I have actually met him once, and I've seen him boxers and as well. Can impress me then, and he certainly impressed me on Saturday. He was going into this fight an underdog because Ogawa, the information we had on him was that he's tough, rugged guy, tall, with power, very good power. So to be fair, Cordina was going into that fight as a slight underdog. And I think he did lose that first round, if I'm being honest. Ogawa seemed to catch him a couple of times. But that punch, man, that was a highlight reel knockout. And that was superb. I mean, he said afterwards that they'd been working on that shot. And you could see that, man, the way he delivered that with perfection. You know what I mean? And that's got to be one of the knockouts of the year. And to do that in a title shot of that magnitude, you know what I mean, against an opponent as formidable as Ogawa was, even though, you know, he's a drug street. You know what I think about drug streets. You've got to give Cordina all the credit in the world. So, yeah, man, well done to him.
I need to get Shane's opinion on this, because Shane is somebody that has, you know, been critical of British fighters a lot in the past. And Ash is saying here, Cordina has got skills and power. Very interesting fighter. Brits should rate it. We lack top-level fighters. You've said before, Shane, you've said something like that last sentence. You've said that quite a few times. But Cordina, what's your thoughts on your opinion on who? I haven't got your opinion on.
I mean, naturally, I've said it before all of these British fighters started to lose, like the Warringtons, the Saunders, the Smiths, and all of that. Before they started to lose, I was always saying that British fighters aren't at the level where we see them at. It's very interesting with Cordina because Cordina is someone who's almost always been spoken about, and I've always had mixed feelings with him because I've always thought that he's got skills, but I've always wanted to see how it would express at the elite level. So I've reserved my opinion on him in terms of criticizing him or praising him. I was like, all right, let me wait and see. You know, the fight on Saturday, I was very impressed with the knockout. You know, I felt like the punch power, the way he was able to deliver the shot, you know, it was an amazing shot, you know. And it's very difficult for me because naturally I'm going to compare him to the pinnacle, which is Shakur, which I think is unfair. You know, I think it's unfair to him because I don't think he's at that level of Shakur Stevenson. But I'm actually really happy he won. And the reason why I'm happy he won is because I felt like a division like 130, which had a lot of excitement at one stage, was now slowly starting to decline. And I felt like it needed someone like a Cordina to bring some excitement. I mean, if you did watch Ogawa, he has shown vulnerabilities in fights before. He was on the Teofimo Lopez undercard, I think, for his last fight. And he was actually struggling in the early part of that fight before he actually got the stoppage. But as Laurie says, Ogawa is heavy-handed. And I was surprised in how Cordina was able to deal with it, you know. So I was impressed with the performance. I won't even lie to you.
And if I could add to that as well, with Cordina, and I've spoken to a couple of people who work in the industry, in the mainstream media, and obviously I'm not going to give any names, but I've spoken to one or two people, and they'd said the same thing to me about Cordina, is that whilst he was exceptionally gifted and talented, they felt, this was their opinion, that if it became a dogfight, Cordina is capable of being roughed up. That's what they have told me. They were saying that, you know what I mean, he's a good fighter, world-class skills. However, at the very top level, he may lack the kind of toughness and resilience required to become a world champion. It could be argued that he didn't need to show that on Saturday because he had that one difficult round, which I thought he lost. But then in the next round, he's come back and blown the guy away. So he's still, if you see what I'm saying, he still hasn't been tested at that level yet. It remains to be seen. But
a name I would love to see him in there with, and I hope Eddie Hearn can make it happen, is I would actually love to see him versus Tevin Farmer at 130 pounds. I would love to see that. You know,
what about Cordina versus our own
Selfa Barrett?
Barrett. That would be an interesting fight.
The reason why I prefer Tevin Farmer, because I think that will prepare you more for Shakur Stevenson. Like, if you want to be the best in the division, you have to beat the best. I don't think he's quite ready for him yet. But if you were to beat a Tevin Farmer with the skill levels that Tevin has, you'd be able to show the fans that.
I'd be a bit more excited with the Zelfa Barrett fight, to be honest, because obviously it's a home sort of local derby type situation. Wales versus England, Cardiff versus Manchester, and Zelfa Barrett is improving. He also had a very good performance. He looks just about ready for a world title shot to me. So yeah, that would be a great fight. You could sell that. Yeah. And I think it would be a good look. And I'd rather watch that than watch Tevin Farmer, who's pretty much inactive at the moment. So yeah, let's do that one, man, because let's face it, Cordina is not going to fight Shakur Stevenson just yet. He's pretty much said that. He said, listen, man, I rate Shakur highly. He goes, at some point I would want to fight him. So that suggests to me that even he is pretty much saying that he's not ready for Shakur Stevenson yet. So in the meantime, a home local derby would be a great night. And obviously a very winnable fight for Cordina. One that Zelfa Barrett will think that he's got a chance.
Definitely.
Because before Saturday, Cordina was not known as a big puncher. And in fact, a couple of fights ago, I forget the guy he was fighting with. A lot of people said he'd struggled with that guy. I forget the guy's name.
Yeah. When do you ever hear other champions say that they're not ready for another champion? That's a bit strange. I've never really heard that before. But
it's an honest assessment.
I think Shakur's just, you just have to admit, man. He's just got great ability, man.
If you're Cordina, you'd be thinking to yourself, well, a lot of people thought Ogawa was going to beat me. I've just knocked him out. So hang on now. Let me have a homecoming fight at least.
Well, Rakhimov will be next. That's what everyone in the comments saying here. Obes, Stefan, Ash, they all say Rakhimov stepped aside, so he'll be next.
Remember Rakhimov was actually supposed to be before Ogawa, because remember Rakhimov fought Jojo Diaz for the IBF strap, and Jojo lost the belt on the scales and it ended in a draw. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So he was always supposed to be in line from there, but yeah.
We can't talk about this, man. I'm glad I was reminded, because this was this is your fighter, Laurie, Junior Farr.
I told you about Junior Farr, didn't I? I said to you that Junior Farr, Joseph Parker fight was one of the worst fights I'd ever seen in my life. And a lot of people thought, I'm just hating on Joseph Parker. And Joseph Parker was going around after the fight saying, what a great fight, what a great fighter, great fight.
It's a good shot. The last thing that goes is your power, isn't it? The last thing that goes is your power, man. And listen, Junior Farr.
What did you hear about Junior Farr? He said he's launching an appeal. He said that the punches were illegal. Did you not hear that?
No, I didn't.
He didn't look behind the head, though, to be honest. Yeah.
They were, but he's launching an appeal. He said that the punches were illegal.
Good luck with that.
Boy, man, that was a shocker, man. Yeah, Farr has appealed it. He has appealed the loss. Stefan says here, Tyson Fury flirts with retirement as soon as Big Daddy Brown starts icing people for fun. Coincidence? Asher said here, Joseph.
I think I saw somewhere where I heard somewhere where Lucas Brown said he wants a rematch with Dillian. I read that somewhere. I don't know if he said that or whether somebody else has said that on his behalf or what, but apparently he's talking about rematch with Dillian. Wow. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming, but then neither did Junior Farr.
But yeah, he has appealed it. He has appealed the loss, Junior Farr.
He's appealed it. I saw it this morning on Instagram. I was like, seriously? I was like, yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know how far he's going to get with that, mate. I mean, to be honest, the shot did look behind the head. I'm not going to lie. But why didn't he see it coming?
That's a very good fight. That is a very good fight. I would watch that. I swear to God.
But Babbage is a cruiserweight.
No, he was. He's a bridgerweight now.
Bridgerweight. Yeah, he's a bridgerweight now, isn't he?
What about Brown versus?
Well, I think he'd still beat Lucas Brown anyway. I mean,
what about?
A fight or so ago, Lucas Brown got beat by a former Aussie rugby league player.
Yeah.
He
got out.
Yeah.
I got a one for you guys. Big Daddy
And I think
versus
that was
Big
the
Baby.
first round as well.
Big Baby, Gerald Miller.
Well, Big Daddy versus Big Baby. I just don't like the title of that, first of all. But like,
two drug cheats as well, by the way. Two convicted drug cheats.
Put that on Triller, man.
I've done for drugs before.
Big Baby's going to be on Triller this month, isn't he? I think he's back.
Yeah, this month. Have you seen how he looks in training? Jesus Christ, you can tell he's off the juice right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen the clips, but he still looks very. Obviously, he's always been heavy, but you can just tell the juice ain't working the same, man.
Literally.
I'll tell you one area where he did it. He's taken all his hair. Have you seen his hairline recently?
Yeah, literally.
He's starting to look like me.
Oh
man. They've got to get these drugs cheats out of boxing, man. I mean, arguably Lucas Brown shouldn't even be boxing. He's failed a couple of drugs tests in the past.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And now you're talking about him versus Jarrell Miller. What is that for then? The world steroid heavyweight champion of the world or something? I don't know.
Daniel White, big up Daniel White. He said Daniel White is saying here Chisora versus Pulev is in. I thought Chisora was in. I thought he was looking for
Pulev before.
I thought he was
Pulev before.
Pulev's beaten him before. Somebody.
Was it not Kawanaki that he was in talks with?
Yeah.
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was Kawanaki.
Yeah.
Things do change.
I thought they might be looking to put Dylan in with Chisora again.
Nah, bro. Right now, Dylan needs like a big name to get my respect back. He needs to fight someone.
Lucas Brown.
No. I want to see this dude fight someone like a Wilder or something like that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I remember we spoke about that last.
I'm being honest with you, man. If I'm Dillian's in his brains trust managing him, I would stay a mile away from that fight, man. That's not a good fight for Dillian.
But Wilder doesn't really throw uppercuts, so you won't have to worry about that. You won't have to worry about uppercuts.
It's true. It's a good point, actually.
That right hand, man. I could see that right hand landing. Trust me.
There were
I could see that right hand detonating off Millions noggin.
When we spoke about this last time, man, no one was really there. No one gave Dillian a prayer in that. But just before we wrap it up for today, we spoke about it briefly. There is the rematch tomorrow, as Stefan is saying, Inoue and Donaire. Don't forget, tune in for that. I think it's on that's on in the afternoon tomorrow, isn't it? Like, can't remember the time. But yeah, it's Tuesday anyway.
I think it's like after 3 or something, after 2, something like that.
Yeah. Gonna wrap it up for today, man. Been another great show. We'll take a couple of more questions from the people in the comments before we go. Daniel White has said here, in each of your opinions, who will Ben and Eubank's next fight be against? I'll start with you, Shane. Who do you think that Conor Ben will fight next, and who do you think Chris Eubank Jr. will fight next?
I mean, I heard Conor Ben wanted to fight Jose Ramirez. I don't think that fight's going through right now. They are looking at the Furman fight, I heard, but I don't think Furman's going to take it. I think the last name that he was going to be matched up was Jesse Vargas. Conor Ben versus Jesse Vargas.
What, Jesse that just lost to Liam Smith?
Is it Jesse Vargas? Is it Jesse Vargas? I'm pretty sure it was
Jesse Vargas has gone up to junior middleweight. It can't be Jesse Vargas.
I literally heard, maybe, you know, like on Instagram, I literally hear like different, reports. So it's probably stupid, but that's the last thing I heard. But before that, it was Jose Ramirez. I don't know who it is now, but in terms of Eubank, personally, I really wanted Eubank versus Andrade, but I don't think we're going to get that. So as it stands right now, probably Eubank-Saunders rematch, I think that's probably the most likely.
Well, let's talk about Eubanks in a catchweight fight with Liam Smith. Liam Smith's trainer, McNally, I think his surname's McNally. He was online the other day saying that that's a fight they'd like at a catch weight. And to me, that's not a bad look, man. Because I'll tell you something. I'm going to keep it 100, man. That to me, that's a 50-50 fight.
Now I think Eubank beats Liam Smith, to be honest.
I'd favour Eubank, but only because of his size. Only.
No, if it's a catch weight, man. I mean, listen, Eubanks was calling out Kell Brook, which I thought was ridiculous. Liam Smith's still active. Hey, that makes a lot more sense to me.
Why can't Eubanks fight someone in his own weight? Why can't he fight someone at middleweight? I thought he was going for the big fights, man. What's going on?
Yeah, well, yeah, but this is Liam Smith is essentially calling him out. And what I'm saying is, it'd be interesting to see what Eubanks says, because to me, I'm not hating on that fight at all, bro. I'm not hating, because Liam Smith is a tough man, and he's got underrated skills and good experience. He's been in there with some good fighters, and he's never disgraced himself. And I think Eubank, you know what I mean? I think that would be a test for Eubank. He's not going to bowl Liam Smith over in a couple of rounds. No chance. And the longer that fight goes, man, I could see him presenting some real problems.
Do you want to know the problem with Ben? The problem with Ben is you got the dudes at his age, you know, the Stanionis, Ortiz, Boots, they're all taking good level fights at this time. He's not taking that step up fight, and he's always going to be compared to the likes of Boots and Virgil and Stanionis.
You know what it is with Conor?
Laurie don't agree. Ash, I know.
No.
I've said the same thing, Shane. But
listen, I'm not. Although I like Conor Ben, he's not above reproach. He's not above criticism. And listen, I don't see why he can't have a domestic tear-up. McKinson, Congo, one of those guys. Even the Albanian guy. Marku. I mean, he'd be favoured to be all three of those, in my opinion. But while we're waiting for him for that welterweight division to shake up the way it's going to shake up, how about one of those fights? But
he could have been fighting Avanesian right now, like Virgil's about.
That's gone now because he's fighting Virgil Ortiz. But what I'm saying, in the meantime,
what about this guy?
Let's face it, I don't think Keith Thurman is going to fight Conor Ben. He's not. Why would he?
What about this guy?
What if you're Thurman and you're sort of, because let's face it, Thurman's kind of in the shake-up for when Crawford and Spence have resolved the welterweight title. There's going to be movements made, in it. There's going to be guys who are like around waiting for the shot. And I think Thurman fancies himself as being one of those who's going to get a shot at the title. He's not going to put that on the line for Conor Ben. So what I'm saying, for Conor Ben, in the meantime, there's some domestic business to take care of, surely. Because as good as he is, as good as Conor Ben is, we don't really know if he's the best welterweight in this country, do we? I mean, if you speak to McKinson, Congo, and Marku, they all think they could beat him. So
this is what we've all been saying. This is what I've been trying to say. This is what I've been trying to say for so long. But people are like, they say, oh, you're hating. I'm not hating on him. But if you're going to say more this and that, and you've got people like Tony Bell, you coming out saying, you know what he said. Like, you know what I mean? When people suggest these fights here against Alexis Rocha, who looked very good last time out, by the way, do you know what I mean? Like, people shouldn't get angry about suggesting those type of fights if you're going to put him on that plateau.
Right now, you got to compare. The thing is with me, I'm just being fair. His experience level and his age, match him with do what the people at your age and at your experience level are doing. You're not doing that. So I can't put you at that level. I heard the way Eddie Hearn talks about Conor Ben. He's a superstar. But you wanted to put him in there with Adrian Broner. I mean, let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. If you're saying this dude in a year's time is ready for Crawford, why are you putting him in there with? Why would you put him in there with Broner?
This is what I've been saying.
It doesn't make any sense.
This is what I've been saying, Shane. It's what I've been saying.
Like I said, he's not above reproach. He's not above criticism. He needs to fight guys that listen. I've got no real problem with how he's been handled at the moment because, as I've said, I know Daryl's sort of subliminally dissing me, so I'm going to respond by saying, listen, we have to keep in mind that Conor Benn is a late starter to boxing. He came up on those small hall shows, actually maybe not so much small hall shows, but on the undercards of shows, working his way up against nondescript opponents. He didn't make the most exciting or impressive of starts. Let's be honest. A couple of those early fights, man, where I've said to Daryl before that he looked a bit like what Campbell Hatton looks now, where he was just overwhelming guys that were clearly not that good. And then he fought a French guy and went life and death with him. And at that point, we was all saying, nah, man, he ain't going to make it. He's just living off his dad's name. That's what a lot of people were saying. Since then, the turnaround has been dramatic. He's actually, in my opinion, one of, if not the most improved fighters in this country. That being said,
No, I'm just laughing at the comment.
I'm reading
it. But yeah, listen, if I could just...
Go on, Lloyd. Sorry.
I like that joke. But yeah, so listen, man, the man's made significant improvement. And listen, you got to give the guy credit, man. Where he was a couple of years ago to where he is now, he's night and day. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we should throw him in with killers just to satisfy people like Daryl's lust. Your bloodthirst. Let the guy develop. Now, what I'm saying is, and I think I'm being very reasonable here, he's reached a certain level. He's not, we all know deep down that he's not ready for, despite what he says and Eddie Hearn says, anybody that knows boxing knows that Conor is not yet ready for world title level or even a world title eliminator. So I'm saying in the meantime, there's some domestic business to take care of. We still don't really know who the best welterweight in this country is. So Mikey McKinson, Marku, Congo, one of them man there, put him in, let's see how he does.
Do
you pick him?
I like to fight Mikey McKinson.
Do you pick him to beat both of them? I'll pick him over Marku, no doubt.
I pick him to beat Marku.
I pick him to beat all of those guys. I think Congo probably gives him a hard fight, so does McKinson. But based on what I'm seeing now, I would elevate Conor Benn above those guys. But I want to see it.
The reason why I can't, what Laurie's saying, I agree with. But the reason why I can't say what Laurie's saying is because Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn aren't talking like Laurie. They're talking like this dude's ready. He's ready for a world title right now, or in a year's time. I literally heard them say in a year's time he's going to be ready for a world title.
Bro,
that's what they said.
You know Eddie Hearn, right? I've got one word to describe Eddie Hearn. Caparanda. He's a cap merchant, man. You know what I mean? I'm not really taking what he says seriously. We all three of us watch the sport. We know what we're watching. Eddie Hearn is cap. I don't take too seriously what that guy says. But I'm saying, if you're asking me, Conor Benn is not quite ready at the upper echelons of the welterweight division. There's guys ahead of him. To me, that's beyond dispute. What I'm saying, he's a young guy. He's making his way up the rankings, but there's some domestic business that needs to be taken care of. We still don't know, honestly speaking, whether this guy's the best in Britain or not. So why not resolve that before he goes on to bigger things? That's what I'm saying.
Do you think? Do you agree with Obes here when you say that he talks too much, Conor Benn?
That's a good name.
Well, he does talk a lot, but he's a young, confident guy. And let's be honest, man. He's he's a character, isn't he? I mean, I don't sort of take on board everything he says. I think a lot of that is cap as well. But you know what I mean?
What about Kambosos? He did it a little, you know what I mean?
Like Kambosos, come on, bro. Kambosos took it too far.
It's the art of deception. It's the art of deception.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is going to go down as one of the all-time faux pas in boxing, actually.
But what about that though? Barrios is a good name for Ben.
Yeah.
Barrios. Again,
but listen, do you not agree with me that
got a welterweight?
Do you not agree with me that
not natural? I know he fought against Thing, didn't he? But carry on.
Do you not agree with me that domestic dust-ups are very big sellers, and we all
of course. Look
Much
at
more
the
so
last
than
one
in
we
other
had.
countries.
Look at the last one we had when we saw Craig Richards versus Boatsy. That was look at that fight.
And you can go right throughout history. Ben Eubank, Groves, Frotch. You know what I mean? The list is endless. You know what I mean?
What
I'm not
about a
saying...
Foley versus Chamberlain?
But you laugh, but at the time, man, that was a big fight, wasn't it?
I was invested in that, yeah.
It wasn't good to watch though.
No, but it was, if you remember at the time, man, it was a hugely sort of promoted fight at that time.
Of
Probably
course.
the biggest that Okole's been in, other than his world title shot.
Let's,
in terms of the way it was promoted.
Obes is saying here, PBC won't work with her, and that's true. That is true. But let's end it on David Morrell, because I did say I was going to speak about him. He was in action as well over the weekend.
I saw the fight, you know, and I have to admit he looked a bit raw, man. I think he might have been. You see, he's another one that's creating this persona, and he's trying to live up to it as being the boogeyman, as a killer, and all that. And what I saw of him the other day was a guy that was so desperate to get his opponent out of there to live up to the boogeyman nickname, that he was actually looking a bit raw and a bit uneducated in his attacks.
I got two names. I got two names for Morrell that I would love to see him in there.
He's not ready for Benavidez or Canelo yet. No way.
I've got a name to gauge whether him versus Jesse Hart. That would be a real good fight at 168.
Well, Jesse Hart's not been that active of recent, has he?
You know, he's had two fights in Philly. This year.
But from what I saw on Saturday was enough to show me that he's not ready for those guys yet, man. He's not ready for Benavidez or Canelo or Charlo and none of them, man. There, but he is a prospect. Don't get me wrong, but he's not ready for those guys yet. And I thought on Saturday he came across to me as somebody that was trying too hard to impress the crowd, which is understandable because he's a relocated Cuban fighter. He's now fighting out of Minneapolis, and he's obviously trying to create that buzz around himself. He's got a bit of a reputation already as a killer, as a boogeyman, as a knockout merchant. And if you looked at his performance on Saturday, he looked like he was hell-bent for the knockout from the start. So much so that he was making a lot of mistakes and getting caught himself.
Facts.
So, yeah, he's not ready yet, but give him time.
Obes are saying here, Benavidez batters Morrell. Stefan saying here, Morrell, Benavidez, sign me up. That's a war while it lasts.
And the other problem with Morrell, if I could just say so quickly, is that he does have a sort of interim belt, doesn't he? And then the trouble with winning belts like that is that once you become a world champion of any denomination, you're then sort of placed at that level where you have to fight a certain level of opponent. And I'm not sure that if it always benefits people, because yes, it's very good to win titles and belts early on in your career. But if you're elevated above your ability too soon, then, you know what I mean, how much you really learn.
Well, look, we got this weekend, we got Daniel Dubois and Trevor Bryan. That's not a real belt, but if Dubois wins that little belt, whatever the WBA, whatever, like he'll be in a position where he'll be put in place to fight one of the top guys. And he
has to fight the winner of Hunter and Fury.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Michael Hunter and Huey Fury, yeah.
No, but that's not too much of a big step because he should be fighting those guys.
Yeah,
I'd fancy Dubois against both of those guys, actually. I don't know about you two.
Even Hunter.
Yeah.
Hunter's a good fighter.
Hunter's been he's been disappointing recently, man.
Yeah, Hunter's, you know what I mean? No, I think, listen, if I'm going to keep it 100, yeah? If Daniel Dubois can't beat Hunter or Huey Fury, then he's not going anywhere special, bro. No, I'm serious. Because Huey Fury, come on, bro. We know it. We know what he's about. He's decent. Huey Fury's decent, don't get me wrong. He's not a bum by any stretch of the imagination. But he's not that dude. Now, if you're Daniel Dubois and you've had all this praise heaped on you, okay, he was tearing through the division, run up on Joe Joyce. That happened. Fair enough. I wasn't too hard on him. I said, these things can happen. He's bounced back with a couple of wins. He's got this fight on coming up against Bryan. If he beats Bryan, he should be calling out the likes of Huey Fury and Hunter. I mean, come on, bro. If you can't
What
beat
about
Hunter and Fury, you're not going nowhere in the heavyweight division, bro.
I agree.
what about
I agree.
Michael Hunter? Because Sander B,
Especially
he's
when you
saying
got a
here
man
that
like
he beats
Orlando.
Dubois. Sander B saying that Michael Hunter beats Dubois easily. Shane.
Really? I'm
I
not
mean,
so sure about that.
if we look at Hunter's resume, I mean, he fought Povetkin. I thought he beat Povetkin. He beat Bacoli, who Bacoli has a very good win over Tony Yoka. He beat Kuzman. You know, Hunter seems like a fighter who fights better when the opponents are better. I'm not saying that he
He
will beat.
didn't want that smoke with Hergovich, though, did he?
No, he didn't.
He didn't
Hergovich
want
is
that
a
smoke with
problem, bro.
Hergovich, bro.
Hergovich causes everyone a problem. I keep that all the way 100. He
Is
causes
he the boogeyman?
everybody a problem.
Is he the boogeyman then?
I don't know about that.
Well, people in the comments here. But listen, DS as well. He's saying Hunter beats Dubois. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that.
So what are we saying that Dubois shouldn't take that fight with Hunter? Then is that what we're really saying?
No, he should take it. He should take it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If he can't beat Hunter, because let's be honest, man, Hunter's not going to be beating Fury or any of them, man, is he? So, you know, that's just the level down. You got Usyk, Joshua, and then man there. You know what I mean? Dubois needs to beat a guy like that to really put his name.
No, I'm not. I 100% agree. I feel like if he can't beat a Huey Fury, if he can't beat a Hunter, he shouldn't be at that. He shouldn't have that aspiration to be with the Furies and the AJs and Usyks and stuff.
And I agree with
Stefan saying Hunter isn't a lock to beat Fury.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point, man. I mean, I think Hunter would be a slight favourite, but not much of a favourite.
That's actually a good point as well. That's a good point as well.
Yeah.
Just bringing up your publication here, Laurie. Yeah, I know you hate it when I say that, but yeah, the ring rankings at heavyweight. I'm just thinking if Dubois wins this weekend, I know we're going to talk about it more on Thursday, but like any of these guys,
where's
man.
Joe Joyce in this list, man? Why is he so far down?
Number 8. Yeah.
Joe Joyce should be ahead of. He should be ahead of Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz.
Definitely, and Dillian as well. Come on, man. Dillian shouldn't be 5. There's no way Dillian should be 5.
Joe's is Parker 4.
Come on, man. Joe Joyce should be, and even Deontay's not fought since
October, but yeah.
But the back-to-back losses against Fury's got to have taken something out of Deontay. We don't even know if he's coming back. So I don't agree with that at all. Frank Sanchez should be higher than that as well. No, I mean, Frank Sanchez on his day is a problem for anyone in that division, man.
Those dudes at the bottom, those 3 dudes at the bottom cause everybody in the division problem.
And what about the American guy? Or what's his name?
Anderson.
Yeah, he should
Jared
be.
Anderson. I mean, he hasn't fought no names. He's just been very good in the fights that he's had. He hasn't fought any names yet. To me, I would have been looking to put Yoka in that list if he had beaten Bacoli, but he got absolutely spanked. So,
to me, Joe Joyce should be in at least number 4, man.
The reason why I brought this up was because let's say Dubois beats Bryan, like in the top 10, and I've just pulled this one up here. I mean, I'd probably keep him away from them 3. It'd be one of these 3 that I'd look at him to fight. I'd say maybe not even Andy Ruiz, maybe either Ortiz or White.
Now I'll put him in there. I would put him in there with Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz has looked trash in his last fight.
I agree with Shane. I mean, Andy Ruiz's last effort, he barely got past Chris Arreola.
And the effort before that was against AJ, and he was terrible in the AJ rematch as well. So I think I'll put the boy in there with.
I think that number 6 there is very generous to Andy Ruiz. He shouldn't be there. Even Luis Ortiz, he's not looked that impressive recently.
I mean, Luis Ortiz got dropped by a jab by Charles Martin.
Darren, where did you get this ranking from? What publication is it?
This is the Ring. This is the Ring.
The Ring, the totally discredited Ring magazine. Who's done that, man?
It's normally the go-to. It's normally the
Nah,
go-to.
man.
I'll keep it real. The dudes at the bottom three should be ahead of the top four. Those four.
And let's be honest, right? And let's be honest as well. You see these guys, Martin Bacoli's got a better win recently than any of those guys recently in that top. From 4 down to 10, Bacoli beating Yoko is probably more impressive than all of those guys.
And not just he beat Kuzman before that. And he beat Kuzman before that.
But Joyce has not been that active recently, Daryl. He's got that great win over Dubois, but he's not been active recently.
But I think
Bacoli, based on recent form, he should be in that top 10.
But also look at Joyce. Joyce has fought Jennings. He fought Takam. He fought Dubois. He should be higher than Louis.
Yeah, he should be. That's what I would say, man.
Yeah,
Joseph Parker had a decent win.
I don't think White should be there either right now, man. I know I know he fought Fury, to be fair, but
that performance was trash.
The Povetkin knockout as well. I mean, yeah, he redeemed himself, but I don't know if I'd have him at number 5 right now.
To me, Dillion's on his way out, man. Sad for me to have to say that, but the way he was beaten by Fury, and then when you look at, like you said, Daryl, a couple of fights ago, yes, he avenged the loss, but he was knocked out by a 40-year-old Povetkin. That defeat doesn't go away, just because he beat him in the rematch.
Right.
You know what I mean? So how he's at number 5, I don't get that at all.
I look at Dylan White a bit like Kovalev. Kovalev got knocked out by Alida Alvarez.
Yeah.
And then he avenged it and then got knocked out by Canelo. It's the same thing with Dylan White. Got knocked out by Povetkin. He avenged it, then got knocked out by Fury. Similar situation.
And where's Lucas Brown in that top 10, man? After that devastating first-round knockout, man, he should be above the likes of Luis Ortiz, Wilder, Andy Ruiz, Dillian. The only one that should be above him there is Joseph. Listen, if Joseph Parker's at number 4 and he took 10 rounds to beat Junior Farr, then Big Daddy Brown should be in the top 10, surely. He just iced Junior Farr. A fighter that Joseph Parker's on the record as saying was a great fighter. That's what he said. Look,
I think these 3, like you said, Shane, they're gonna be elevated soon, all 3 of them, in that ranking. I think eventually, anyway. I'd probably favor these 3 over any one of these 4, if I'm being honest.
I'm being dead serious.
Maybe not. I think Parker looked good last time out, but
I'd pick Joe Joyce to beat Parker. I'd pick Joe Joyce to beat Parker. Every day of the week, I'd pick Joe Joyce to beat Parker.
Yeah. Laurie, what do you think? I mean, I thought Parker looked really good with Andy Lee in his last fight. I thought he looked really good.
I agree that. I think Joseph Parker would make a great start. But I think that Joe Joyce should wear him down. And if not stop him, we know that Joseph Parker's got a very good chin, actually. But I think that he does tire in fights. And I don't think he's got the best will in the world either. I think
that's what I was talking about. Like his will get broken at some point.
Yeah, I think Joe Joyce should break his will and either stop him or beat him up down the stretch. Especially if it's a 12-round fight.
Let me see what the people in the comments are saying, man. I'm curious to see what they've got to say about this. Because Stefan says here, where's Big Daddy Brown? Give that man his flowers. He should be in there.
I'm hearing that Fury might come out of retirement to give him a title shot. That's what I'm hearing.
Joyce made a real bad mistake re-signing with Frank.
I understand why he did it, but yeah.
Sander B says here, Anderson has fought taxi drivers.
He's young though. I think Anderson's only 21 or 20. He's young.
Yeah. Also says here, Joyce is good, but he'll never be elite in my opinion. So listen, guys, we'll wrap it up here anyway, man. We're like 1 hour, 43 minutes in. Been a fantastic show. We're going to be back again on Thursday. Shane, you're more than welcome to join if you're around. Laurie, we'll check in at 5 on Thursday.
Man.
We'll preview some of the fights over the weekend in a bit more detail. But again, another fantastic show. On the way out, guys, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For those of you that want to see more of Shane, let them know where you're going to be at, man. Because like you said,
we go live every.
So let them know where you are.
Yeah, we go live every day, G5 Jeff TV, me and two of my boys from America. Obviously, one's from Philly, one's from Arizona. But yeah, today's topic is pound for pound list. We do have long lives. Our lives are normally
There's so much energy that gets expended on what is a mythical, subjective thing, man. I think fans just like they take it way too serious for me.
no fact.
Fans will literally spend hours talking about pound for pound, and basically it amounts to who your favorite fighters are. Let's be honest. How many people manage to keep it objective and say, right, I'm really gonna? It really amounts to what 10 fighters I like the most. You know what I mean? So I'm not big on that pound for pound stuff, man. At the end of the day, yeah, it's all right if you've got a clear number one, but you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is, isn't it? It's just fans just, you know, talking about who their favorite fighter is, basically, and giving them the pound they want.
Carry on, Shay.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, yeah, that's where you will see us, G5 Jeff TV, basically every single day, other than Fridays. We're basically live for hours.
I wouldn't mind betting that Jeff's lift is going to contain Fulton and Boots. Because they're two Philly fighters, you know what I mean?
He won't. He might. He'll probably have Fulton in it. He won't have Boots in it yet because
I bet anybody's got Fulton on it.
Yeah, no, he's got Fulton in it. But yeah, but again, I agree with what you're saying. You know, majority of the time that is the case. But yeah, that's where you will find. You know, obviously Blunt, obviously Laurie and Daryl. Obviously they can jump on the channel anytime. But most of the time we go late, like for British time, maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock. So it's a bit difficult for UK
time zones. Yeah. Well, listen, now we'll be back on Thursday, man. Shane, thank you for joining. Thank you to everybody here, and we'll catch you guys on Thursday, man. Big up, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Respect.
Just hope everybody realised that they were being deceived all along. See, this was the art of deception. You didn't really listen to. You just thought you were listening to me, Shane, and Daryl, but this has all been an illusion.
Big up everyone, man. Peace out. We'll see you all on Thursday, man. Peace out.